that I never talked about the horses like I promised you that I would, or at least go through what I've learned so far. So we're going to do that real quick and get into it. Uh, all right, so let's start at the top. Okay, so you were asking between the Missouri Foxtrotter and the Turkeyman. Of course, it won't work now. And the Turkeyman. Let's see if I can get this controller working. There we go. Okay. Anyway, Missouri Foxtrotter, as you can see, is a fair. This is online, by the way. This isn't story mode. This is online. One, the Foxtrotter is super expensive at almost $1,000, just at the cheapest one. All right, and they go up to 1125. And so I want you to pay attention to the stats as much as anything. The stats really don't change, no matter what you pay for the horse, as far as this one goes. So then it comes into what saddle you put on it from there, but we'll get into that another time. Next are your Mustangs, which is going to be what you find quite a bit in story mode on a regular basis. The Wild Bay, as well as I believe the Buckskin, are the two that are really common on story mode. In online mode, I would not put the money out unless I was just to do a 130. But this is like a little pony. This is like a 14-hand, 13-hand little pony, and it's not that fast. It's really pretty much comparable to the Kentucky Saddler from what I've seen. So if I was to actually put money out on online, I would be looking at one of two breeds. Actually, if I'm just starting out, as you see, the Turkeymans are up in almost $1,000, 40 gold, 950. That's money. You're not going to have that when you first start. So I actually went with a Brayton when I first started. Was this Red Rowan, and it did just fine for 150. It does. It's a war horse, and I really have no complaints about it other than not inclined to jump. And not fast, so you're just kind of cruising along, and it's not really great through the field. She's really not good around rocks and same things, and I found that to be throughout the same, all the way through, from the Red Roan down to the Steel Gray. That seems to be exactly the same. Like, they don't like the rocks. They like to be just cruising on flat land kind of deal. All right, but still a decent horse if you just want to cruise. I haven't tried any of these, but the only one I would really be inclined to work with would be one of these two, simply because they sit a little higher. But I haven't actually worked with any of them, so I'm not really sure how they do or don't do. All right. If I was to recommend anything as far as your first horse goes when you get into online mode, now obviously there's a lot of personal opinion that comes to all of this, but I'm a big thoroughbred fan. Those of you who watch my streams know that I run the brindle, and you only pay 18 gold for a thoroughbred brindle, and so I gotta say that's a pretty good price for a horse that's going to keep up with the Turkeyman and give an Arabian a run for its money. You can go down to the 130, which obviously doesn't have the stats of the 18 gold, but it's still fast. And just to give you a heads up as how weird these stats really are, I have two separate accounts, and so on my primary account I let my nephew play, and then I play on my secondary with him. On my secondary account I have this Dapple Gray. I didn't even bother paying for the 18 gold for one simple reason. I raced this brindle with my nephew side by side down the road, and the Dapple Gray kept up with this brindle without a problem. All right, the only time I started to lose it is towards the end, because I didn't have the health that I had on this one. It wasn't built up fully bonded, right? So therefore he couldn't keep running like this one can. But once it's fully bonded, this 130 horse is pretty equal to this brindle. Now I understand stats wise they're entirely different, but from what I've seen as far as stats wise goes is that there is a level of speed involved, so takeoff and overall speed, tapping the X button and really kicking it out. But I think these stats are more about cruising speed. So you tap that X button a few times, you get up to your cruising gallop, and that I think is what these stats are initially for, is for that cruising gallop. Okay, so that's how I've been looking at these stats. Is that at a cruising gallop, the brindle will outbeat the dapple gray without a problem. But when it comes to kicking it out, for whatever reason, this dapple gray can keep up with this brindle. All right, and I have the same thing with, say, the Nakota. Right? I want to say I don't have any of these Nakotas in online, but I do have the Blue Roan on story mode. Not a bad little horse, but I found the same basic thing between those. Or what is it that I do have? Riding. It was a riding. There's a basic. I gave it up, but I want to say it was a Kentucky Saddler. Which one was it? It was a Silver Bay that I bought for $50 to start with, just because I didn't like the one it gave me, so I just had the $50 and I threw it this one, and it did just fine. Going in hindsight, I mean, other than I don't really like the Kentucky Saddler attitude, disposition, I think the horse itself would do just fine compared to the brindle. But what I found with the Kentucky Saddler is that it is much more inclined to buck you. It is much more inclined to get scared faster. They don't like jumping over rocks a whole lot. They don't like going through bushes a whole lot. They'd much rather go around everything. And ideally, they want to stay on the road. But that last point pretty much applies to almost every horse that I've been on. It just wants to be on the road and run the line. But with that said, I have found that my race thoroughbred brindle does great jumping over rocks and down cliffs and sliding down cliffs and all the little things that are, that you really like to have. So I'm kind of biased in that sense. As far as first horse goes, I would probably push you either into that dapple or whatever's on sale. So, for example, we can get you into a paint that is normally $130, same price as a dapple bred, but for $78. Now, obviously, the stats aren't all that, what they as good as the dapple gray, but for $78, it'll get you a decent horse to do what you want to do, and you won't have to worry about it. Keep in mind, those sales don't last; they change every week or every month, something like that. So you got to keep that in mind. Beyond that, man, it really depends on how much money you want to spend. All right, so after you get yourself established, you can go into the Arabians, but look how tiny that horse is. All right, now what I use is that tackle block on the back over there. I use that as my measurement. All right, now yes, stats wise, they're better than my thoroughbred stats wise. But I will tell you that I have no problems keeping up with either one of these Arabians with my brindle. The only thing these guys got on me is a takeoff. They do take off faster, but I normally catch up to them on the long run. So if it's a long enough stretch, then I can pass them and gain speed on them on the overall, and most of the time run a longer distance without ever slowing down. I found that's the biggest advantage, is that for 18 gold, and I bond my force up to level 4, I have something that is equal or better than an Arabian that is $850, 42 gold, $250 for the bottom one, but those stats are less than my thoroughbred, right? So why the hell would I pay $250 for that when I can go to a dapple gray and pay $130 and come up with something that's almost equal to that? All right, so that's what I learned the hard way. Is this the money part of it? You have to pay attention to what you're looking at and figure out which way you really want, and and just kind of go from there. Um, also, since we're here, those aren't the ones. Yeah, they are. Yeah, they are. The Braytons down are all roll horses, so you can't get these until you open up the rolls. The Brayton is the bounty hunter. I don't remember all these, but Gypsy Cobb is the naturalist. I just got the last one open today. I think the Norfolk is that's the collector, isn't it? I believe. And this is the moonshiner, or this is the moonshiner, and this is the collector. I don't know. It doesn't. Anyway, all the starting orders are the same. I go from there. Hold on, I don't have any of my things up. I gotta get this on so I can hear your read your thing. I hope so. All right. So the question is, do you think they're going to add the black horse mask in Red Red Redemption Online? I really, really hope so. Um, I personally did not start playing this game in time to get the first one, and so to be honest with you, I'm really jealous of all the guys that do have those unicorn mask and then the horn mask and all that. I really hope they come up with those again. I'm praying. I really am. I don't really expect this to be a long stream, by the way. I'm really just going through horses for a buddy of mine, and yeah. I just I'm crossing my fingers, man. I'm really crossing my fingers. Um, but yeah, really crossing my fingers. Anyway, where was I? Okay. So the Turkeyman horse is pretty much equal to the thoroughbred horse. All right, more money, but the stats are identical, like right down the line. So again, why pay $950 to $1,000 for a horse when you can go over here and buy yourself either Nakoto for 130? It's a nice little racehorse, or the thoroughbred, which is obviously you see how tall it is. You have the Blood Bay or Dapple Gray for $130, and have a horse that's going to do everything that you want to do without a problem. Okay, so that's where it's at for me. I from there it really is all just personal preference from there as to what you want to look at or what you want to ride. Um, but if you're one of those that are like me, that you have horses in real life and you train horses in real life, and you actually get to know and understand the personalities and different dispositions of the horses in real life, then you kind of come in here with a bias as far as what you actually want between your legs riding through the field. And now for me, I don't like short horses. I don't really care how fast they are, except for in the game, I don't want to take forever to get from point A to point B, especially if that point A to point B is from, say, Tumbleweed to Saint Denis. You know what I mean? I don't want to take forever. I want a horse that's going to shit and get, and I can be there in a few minutes without having to worry about it. So that's one purpose. But as far as real life goes, I'm a trail rider. I actually train wild Mustangs from BLM. That's really my biggest thing. And so if I was doing that, I would truly just go into, where the hell are they riding? Morgans. I would go into a Morgan. Although I'm telling you right now, guys, in real life, they are not this tiny. In real life, they are, I would say, half again up to that tackle block. All right? A Morgan and a Mustang horse in real life will come in at this is the shortest. This is like a 14-hand horse right here. So I would put this horse in a cart. I wouldn't even put a saddle on this horse in real life. I'd be like, fuck that. I'm not going to be dragging my toes on the ground. That's ridiculous. Excuse my language. But anyway, so the Mustangs and Morgans that I work with in real life, actually, well, first off, let's differentiate the difference between Mustang and Morgan. Mustang is more or less the wild, true native wild horse that roamed the lands back in the Indians' day. And yes, they are still fairly some purebloods out there roaming the fields that BLM picks up. And a lot of them do look like this. Actually, they look like this. Quite a bit of them look like this. These two down here, not so much. This one a little, but primarily this is what you see as far as Mustangs go. Um, and Morgan, really. But Morgan's different. They actually get a brindle into them and all that. But so I digress. Mustangs are pretty much a native breed that are roaming through the lands and still have a lot of the native blood, that pure blood of the Mustangs still roaming through them. They are kind of few and far between. They're scattered amongst the herd. Uh, Morgans are more or less an offshoot of the quarter horse and our big suffix that we brought in, right? And then they were bred with the Mustang. All right. So what was going on in those days is that our cowboys were running around shooting all the studs, all the Mustang studs in the fields, and then we were using that for their horse meat. We were using, that's what we were eating and stuff like that. We then would incorporate our quarter horses and our Suffolks and our shires into those herds, and we would breed them out, and it would be a natural thing. We wouldn't be capturing them. They would be out in the wild doing this thing. Now, after they were bred and you had little babies roaming through the field, then we went out there and we started capturing them. All right. Now, keep in mind that once the horse was captured, he was under saddle and broken 2 to 3 week process, if not 1 week. All right. And the reason for that is that we were in survival time in those days, and so there was no time to work with the horse. You were quite literally breaking the horse, which is where the term came in, as in breaking the horse, because you were literally breaking the spirit of the horse. You were hobbling them. You would sit on them. The big thing of those days, especially if you got a wild one, is you would hog tie them, hobble them, get them down on their stomach, and you would sit on them, and you would lay on them, and you would do that all day long, like 8 hours. All right. You would unhobble them, let them go. You would go out there, leave a lead line on them, of course. You would go out there, capture them again with the lead line. Okay, and do it again. You hobble them, throw them down, lay on them for the next 8 hours. Shit you not. And this is how it was done. A few days later, that horse was ready to put a saddle on. He was broken. He was ready to go. All right, but I digress. I love history and all that good shit, so I kind of get into all that. Okay. That's the difference between a Mustang and a Morgan. Is the Morgans are bred with our quarter horses and whatnot, so that means they're a bigger breed, they're a bigger horse, and they last longer. They were stronger. Yada yada yada. And then from there, do they have Mustangs in here? I don't think they actually have Mustangs in. In multi, isn't it multi? Yeah, here we go, Mustang. So in this game, they actually got the Mustang and the Morgan at pretty much the same height. You notice the stats are a little better on this Mustang, which they really shouldn't be, but whatever. But that's so anyway. That's how that goes. So, all right, I digress, man. I could just talk about that for hours and hours and hours. Anyway, so bottom line, you're looking for a first-hand horse. You're just getting into the game. You're riding in that. I think it's a Kentucky Saddler they gave you, and you earn a few dollars. And I would go with a race breed. And I would actually go with a thoroughbred, because look how tall that horse is. Look at the ass end, and look at the apple ass on that horse. Man, I'm telling you what, that horse rides like a recliner, man. Just like you could fall asleep on that horse going down the field. Oh God, it's gorgeous. And that's my other thing, guys. In real life, these Mustangs and these Morgans are so short in stature and leg and width of leg that they don't have a smooth stride until they get into a full-on gallop. All right, but anything under a gallop, a trot, or a slight little walk, you can feel your balls in your throat. I'm sorry for saying it that way, but it's true. It's the worst ever. All right, so that's my other thing, is that when I play these games and I ride these little horses, I can feel that. It's like, I don't want that. I don't want that feeling at all. So I ride my thoroughbred. The thing is with a tall horse is that, one, in real life, they see everything. They're actually more attentive. They're leaders, not followers, so they're more inclined to make their own decisions. Pros and cons of that, of course, but I find more pros and cons, to be honest with you. And so, therefore, if they're more inclined to make their own decisions, you can most of the time, once they're trained and properly under saddle and not barn sour, you can let them do their thing. You don't have to ride the reins. You can let that rein just slope on the horn, and and put a beer in your hand and cruise down through the field if you want. You really can. All right, but obviously before that you have to pay attention. The other thing with these large horses is that they're not so inclined to buck you off as the little ones are, because they sit high and can see what's coming at them. They're more inclined to sidestep it than they are to rear up. And I've actually found that true in this game as well, surprisingly enough, especially with snakes. Not with bears, but especially with snakes, which is almost true to form. These horses will sidestep unless the snake is underneath their foot, and then they will rear up. And that is true in real life. If that snake gets under that foot of that horse, he will rear up, but at the same time, he will most likely step on the snake as well. He'll stomp the thing. But he's going to rear up. You got to be ready for that. Gosh, all right. Man, I think that's about it for now. As far as story mode goes, I honestly wouldn't spend a single dollar on a horse in story mode. I would literally get into Chapter 2, Chapter 3, find that dapple gray thoroughbred that is most of the time down at the beaches at Flat Neck, and that would be my horse till the end. The only downside to that is you get to watch the horse die at the end, which kind of sucks. But, it's the way it goes. I've played through story mode 3 times now, and I'll be honest with you, I still find stuff that I didn't find prior to. But every time I run my dapple gray thoroughbred, I have found him 2 out of 3 times on the beach south of Flat Neck Station. End of Chapter 2, I believe, is what sticks in my head. Sometimes Chapter 3. And that's what I would do in the story mode. I wouldn't spend a damn dime on a horse in story mode. All right. All right. We should probably talk about saddles at this point, huh? Because that is a big thing when it comes to online mode and saddles. So, as you see, I have 2. Well, we can call this a third, but it's not really. This is what you start with. Or rather, I guess you get to pick out of 4 or something like that, and this is the one I picked. So anyway, this is the original saddle that I started with. I put some stirrups on it, and that's about it. It's nothing special. I then bought the beaver roping saddle from there, and I like the saddle. Nice saddle, does the job, looks good. It's my kind of saddle. I don't like the stirrup straps. I really wish they were trail straps, but that's here and there. But this upland saddle, by far, my favorite, hands down. And it's not just for the stats. Now, keep in mind, those of you who already know, you can only get the upland saddle with the Prestige Bounty license. And then you have to rank up to what level? I want to say it's 20 or 25 or something like that, before you could buy the upland saddle. The upland saddle is what, $625 by itself. There are no add-ons to it, so you don't get to put stirrups on it. You don't get to. It is what you're looking at, but the stats are hands down the best stats overall in the whole game that I have seen. Alright, so if we go over here, we'll select saddle accessories. I don't really want that. So it only lets you put on what you want. So we gotta go down here. And what you're looking at is, so the core drain rate of the beaver roping is higher than the upland. See, it's 24, 26. But you got a 30% regen rate, you got 30 on the core, you got 65 on the drain. And then on top of that, guys, I got the talisman for the 10% to add on top of that. So the horse can literally run all day long. and not waste an ounce of energy. It's absolutely amazing. And I think the Applin saddle allows for that. When I use the beaver roping saddle, I actually have to slow down and relax and all that good stuff. Um, but I don't think that you're going to be able to. There we go. Get anything other than that, because one, you have to get ranked up to open up these saddles, and then by the time you get ranked up, you're going to be ready to buy something like, a special saddle like this. All right, I don't spend the gold, by the way, unless you really like the look of the saddle. I also wouldn't spend the 410 on the Cougar. As you see, the pretty much best overall stats is the Beaver Dakota. The Beaver roping saddle is pretty much the best saddle in the whole thing for $340. So that's what I would recommend. If I was to look at special saddles, I would go straight over to this and not waste my money on, say, this. That is 11 gold or $94 for the stock. So if you go over to info, see look the pathetic the stats are, and they're no better for gold. So why would I bother when I can come over here and spend $340 and have it done? Keep in mind, this is not open until I don't know what rank, I forget, but you got to rank up to a certain point before these open up one by one. I want to say this is the first one that opens up for you, and even at that, it'd be a decent. I think it's the alligator, actually, isn't it? Yeah, it's the alligator one. Don't spend the $375 on that. Those are horrible stats. Okay, it's like we can go through stats all day long, can't we? All day long. You have the improved Lumley McKeeling saddle. Alright, stats aren't bad, but they're not great for 5 pieces of gold. I actually like the look of the Girth saddle. I really like the trail straps. You can change the stirrups in here if you want, but I like the double strap around the girth. I like the leather straps to hang stuff on. The horn's a nice horn for lassoing. The bed roll's nice and flat. It doesn't get in the way of when you lean back on the horse. My biggest thing are these leg straps right here. If you ride horse in real life, and if you ride for hours on end, you know that these straps are a lifesaver, and you wouldn't have it any other way. These straps will take the hair right off your legs, man. Shit you not. I have a couple saddles with this strap, and I stopped using them. They weren't cheap saddles either. They were really nice saddles. But I stopped using them because it had this strap on there. And I'd be on the horse for 3-4 hours and come home, and man, my leg would be hairless. For one, the entire inside of my leg would be completely hairless and almost look like you just got done through a wax, like red, beet red, just painful. And I learned real quick, you don't want these straps on your legs. You don't want that strap on your leg. That's more of an English strap than anything, and I say that because it has the that connecting buckle on the front, on the top right there, as well as the buckle behind. American straps are normally like this. All right, we have the one thing on the bottom that connects two straps together, but they don't connect. You don't have anything around until you get up past the saddle flap right there. All right. But beyond that, it just depends on what you can afford and what you want to look at. All right. So here, let's go. These are just strictly stock. You don't have any improved versions of it, but the stocks aren't bad as far as that goes. You have different colors to go to. This is one I see a lot of folks on, but I believe that's because you can get this within the first 10 ranks or 20 ranks of the first bounty hunter, and the stats aren't bad at all. You can also put stirrups on this saddle and make them a little better. Still won't be as good as the upland saddle. I'm just not keen on the whole black and gold concept. I think that looks gaudy as hell. If I was to pick in a different saddle other than one I'm using, I would either go with the Fletcher, which is a Gosh, I forgot. Fletcher is the Trader Roll saddle, I believe. That's what sticks in my head. But the only thing I don't like about this saddle is that initial strap, that English strap right there. I hate that so much. But I do like the look of this saddle personally. Stats wise, not bad. Not bad overall. $525 is a little steep for what it is. I would still go with the Beaver roping saddle over that, and go from there. But again, I don't remember when you have to get that unlocked. Now, if you don't have an absolute choice as far as you're going, I think you're going to end up going with this one right here. If you can afford to buy the improved, go ahead and do it. It's worth the 160, but I don't know that that's really gonna. I don't know if you're gonna have enough money in your pocket when you first start off. I think you're gonna have to do quite a bit of some grinding to get that dollars in your pocket, and by the time you get there, you're gonna probably want something else. Improved colors. I'm not a black kind of guy on my saddle because I know that's gonna rub off. I would actually go with a natural brown, or even, yeah, it would be this one right here is the one I would go with. Strap I found acceptable. It's not a straight strap. It does have a little spot for your leg to rest in. No buckle on the top to catch your thigh in, so that's nice. I really like these girth straps. These are really nice girth straps. So those of you who don't know, these kind of are, I know they look ratty, but these kind of girth straps go back to the ancient days. They flex with the horse. They tighten, but at the same time they allow the horse to breathe and move and do what he has to do. Whereas these straps right here, the Nagagocha. Let's check out the Nagagocha. Let's check out the stats here. They're stock 20, 35, 18, 20. Those aren't bad at all, actually. As far as an overall goes, $512. That is, geez, that's a few Trader Roll deliveries. I'm not too keen on the color. Is that all it comes in? No, here we go. Yeah, okay, yeah. If I was to choose one, it would probably have to be that one, guys. But only because of the tan. Like I said, in real life, all this black on this saddle rubs off on your jeans and your shoes and your chaps and whatever you gotta wear, while you're doing your thing. So, I know it's a game and it doesn't matter. I get that, but in real life, you don't want a bunch of colored crap. You want natural tan leather that is going to wear normal. It's not going to look god awful when the ink starts to come off of it and things like that. It's going to look normal and actually even better because once it starts to wear, that leather really gives it character and whatnot. But that's just my personal opinion as far as all that goes. Can you do that? Well, if all you wear is chaps in real life, man, your fucking ass is sore. Like, sore. I mean, unless you got a, yeah, I don't want to sound like an asshole, but you got like a boyfriend going on that's riding behind you. I don't know. But if all you're wearing is chaps, man, that's gonna be sore. Regardless. But oh damn, make me lose my train of thought. That's great. But if I had to choose, if I was low on money and didn't have a lot to choose from, I think this is probably what is this? The Baylanger. And I think those are really horrible. It's probably stats on there, right? Yeah, no, they're not as bad as they could be, but for $217, it's not something that's bad. That would be the satellite. That would be it, though. Dude, what I don't like about this, guys, is that the stirrup straps that are going over there. That's like a, I don't want to say Mexican style, but it's Spanish related, and that's not really American. That's really a Spanish thing. Good and bad. You know, it does really help a lot when it comes to balancing on the horse, especially when you're roping and doing things like that, um, because you're actually pulling from over top, and you're going to move the whole saddle with you, rather than an American saddle that doesn't have that. You're not pulling from the top side. You're not pulling from your crotch. You're pulling from your knee, if that makes sense to you, right? So you're top heavy at that point. Now, on the other side of that, the Spanish related saddle doesn't normally sit as deep as, say, the American saddle does. You see the different profile in the seat itself. See, of course it decided to go shit. There you go. You see how it's actually more squared in the seat than this one is? You see how this one actually sits on the saddle? The reasoning for that is that the American saddle allows you to kick your toes out, so you should be able. Oh, how can I actually explain this where those of you who don't know can understand? All right. So when you're on the saddle, you see your hups right here. You got your horns, and you have what we call your knee cups. So that is where you put your knees in. All right. Now, as an American saddle, you will then squeeze your knees in. Your toes will come out just a little bit to where you can actually see the tip of your toes just past your knees. All right. At that point, that actually forces you to sink into the seat and actually and really, how do I explain that right? Like you're bent into it, but you're not bent into it. You're actually laying back like a recliner, but you're sucked into the seat, right? So that whatever that horse does, you are connected to that horse. And as long as you keep that connection, you're not going to go anywhere. You can do whatever the hell you need to do, whether it's roping or taking a sharp turn or keeping from getting bucked off, or lifting your leg up to avoid cactus. It's not a problem. All right, but the Spanish saddle is not geared towards that. It's not geared towards using your knees. It's geared towards using your feet. All right, so they primarily are relying on the balls of their feet on that metal stirrup, right? And at that point, you're not actually sinking yourself into the saddle. You're sitting up a little more upright, almost English style, but not quite, right? So that now what that does allow for you to do is roping, right? It'll allow you to actually get the rope up and sling it, rather than the cowboy. He has to kind of go sideways with it, right? And back a little bit before he can actually get the rope out there. Okay? So there's different concept. Now, obviously, this is a video game, and it doesn't freaking matter tenfold at all. I really like the strap they got on that. Oh, and the girth, too. Oh, that's really nice. So pros and cons. See how far back that girth is? So this saddle is made for roping, right? So what that tells you is that when that cowboy puts the rope around that cow or whatever it is, and he wraps it around that horn, he is now reliant on this back strap right here to keep the saddle and him on the horse, right? All right, and then what it does, it kind of creates a scissoring effect on the horse, and the horse is actually going to put his head down and a little bit to the right, and if he's trot right, he's actually going to dig in his back foot, and he's going to create an emergency stop on the horse, right? Now, if you're not ready for it, you're going to get flipped off the horse, and it's going to, damn near kill you, kind of like old Superman did. But that's here and there. Geez, I got on a full-on tangent here, didn't I? I'm so sorry. This was not supposed to be so long. Yeah, geez, guys, I can keep on going about this, but I think that's it for now. Like I said, this is just supposed to be a really short stream. It's for saddles and whatnot. I don't know if you're watching. I don't want to say your name, but you know who you are. Um, but I wanted to take you through a little walkthrough and give you a concept as far as what my ideal and what I think this that and all this good stuff is. Bottom line, as far as the game is concerned, you're just looking at stats, and stats for you is second nature. So I got a hunch that you're going to spend a few hours looking at stats for yourself, and then you're going to make your decision. But I will agree, the stats on this saddle is really great, all things considered. It's expensive, but it's really nice stats. So that's certainly one to take in consideration. I'm not too fan of this style saddle. This is not a working type saddle. This is a luxury cruising down the road type saddle. This is more or less throwing a blanket over the horse and we're just going to kind of cruise along and not do anything. All right. I would never buy this saddle ever in real life or otherwise, for the simple fact that I actually work with my horses. Even if I'm on the trail, I kind of get into that. This is actually my ideal saddle as far as all things considered. This is the perfect Western saddle. Perfect rope and Western saddle. You see how the knee cups are rounded? It allows you to cup your knees in, but at the same time you can disengage when you have to, allowing you to slip over the saddle without having to actually lift your legs over the saddle. The same concept as this saddle was, although this is more of an endurance saddle. You see how it has almost no horn to it, but it has metal clips on the front, metal clips all around. This is more of an endurance saddle. This is kind of the saddle you want when you're doing really long races, like the movie Hidalgo. Keep that in mind when you're looking at this saddle. That's kind of what this is about. Although I'm not a fan of how this is put together. This is really poorly thought out. We have a huge round iron buckle right in the middle, which is going to knock me on my knees and my legs every time I walk around. We have a buckle with a pin to the south side. That's going to stab me in the back of my leg as we're rolling. We have a strap and a buckle in the top that's going to pinch my legs as we're riding. So all over layout of this saddle is absolutely horrendous. I would never ever touch this saddle in real life. I would throw this outside for yard art, but that's just me. That's actually not a bad saddle, all things considered. That's a cruising saddle. It's actually not a bad saddle right there. It's the same thing. That's an endurance saddle. Same concept. This is more of a cowboy saddle. Rider. This is a multi-do-it-all kind of saddle. More of a roping concept. Not too big on the colors though. Improved one color. Oof. What are the stats on that thing? Wow. Stats aren't bad though. For 550. If you like pink and black. Doggo, Upland. That's my go-to right there. This is my perfect layout. So I don't care. Well, I do care, but putting the game stats aside and everything, this would be my go-to saddle. What this is a cross between an endurance saddle and a roping saddle. Is what this is. All right. Now, mind you, we don't have the back strap for our roping part of it, but we do have the front strap with a middle strap. Now, mind you, that front strap is a two thing. It also holds our lantern. It would also be considered part of our martingale in real life. Part of the endurance side of things is so that front strap would keep the saddle on the horse regardless of what we did. Now, this middle strap here would allow the horse to breathe easily without stress and flex at the same time, because you could barely see it, but it does have the flexing strap on the gut. The only thing I don't like is the big metal ring, but we can't have everything we want. That front leather strap right here going around the legs is part of the front martingale. It literally straps around, I can't get around the other side, but it literally straps around the front, around the legs, and it holds a lantern. And in reality, you wouldn't really have a lantern on there, but it would be more for the endurance side of things, for going up hills and doing the mountain goat thing, right? Same thing with this tri strap coming up from the back. And if you notice how it's actually not connected at the bottom of the saddle, but it's got a strap that goes up under the bag, which means that its connection point is behind the saddle, right? Which means that you're not pulling from the bottom of the saddle, you're actually pulling from the top of the saddle, right? So it would cinch it into the horse. Same concept with the front. You see how it's got the front strap that goes around, very much like the vaquero Mexican style. Same concept. It's cinching that right into the horse, and at the same time, it's bringing you right into it. All right. Now the seat isn't ideal as far as what I would prefer, but again, it's a game, so it doesn't really matter. But ideally speaking, I would want it to sit farther back. Right. You see how the bedroll is actually on the last part of the blanket. I would want that bedroll almost off that blanket onto the red part of that blanket. And then I would want the back of my seat where that bedroll is. Okay? And that would allow me to recline back farther and give me more time on my back when you're going for hours and hours down the road or through the field or up the mountain or whatever it is you happen to be doing. All right? So that is one of the biggest reasons that I love this saddle. Also the strap. Now, mind you, in real life, I would not have this point coming down on the strap that you see. I would have that cut off into a nice rounded point so that it would not catch my pants or anything of the sort, or my chaps or anything like that. This also causes a little excessive wear because it's got that little dimple on it, and obviously that's going to wear a hole right through your chaps as you're riding around. But beyond that, this saddle is pretty much my ideal saddle all around, regardless of the stats. This is the one for me. And if you got there, this is the one I would recommend if you guys can actually afford it and get your prestige license and all that good stuff. It's well worth it. I honestly think that this saddle is the only thing that you're paying for in that prestige license. Never mind the bounty reward system and all that. I would give that up for this saddle any day. Just because of how it's put together and how it is. This just combines roping, endurance, and luxury all in one. And yeah, I tell you, man, you're not going to come across a better saddle as far as all that's concerned. You know, especially with the diamonding going on, there's actually a reasoning for all that, guys. What that does is it actually gives you friction. And so when on your inner thighs, you'll actually be able to squeeze a little easier without having to squeeze super tighter, and it'll give you enough friction to just kind of relax and let it do its thing. All right, it's really a well put together saddle, more so than any of the others that I've seen in here. It's like this one's, never mind the stuff on it, but look at the two straps and the buckles on the straps. All right, if it wasn't for that, it wouldn't be a bad saddle at all. It's a cruising saddle. It's not meant for anything but to get shit-faced drunk on and cruise down the road. That's really all that saddle is for right there. Which is, you know, I guess why we have a big old box in here to hold our shit. Anyway, but all right, I think that's all I got for now, guys. Thank you for sticking around. Thanks for all the comments. I really appreciate it. I do have to get off now. And any questions, comments, anything, let me know. If I got an answer for it, I'll throw it out there. All right, man. It's been a pleasure, as always. Until next time, guys.